Welcome to QSO 600 Operations and Supply Chain Management. My name is Dr. Bill Lightfoot, and I'm sorry I can't join you this first Thursday. However, thought that I would deliver a couple of videos and a couple of assignments for you to work on while you're also getting your text. So let's move on. What I like to do in the introduction is really kind of get us thinking a little bit ahead and really just sort of thinking more broadly about for example, what is the uh, true purpose of business? And to start with, normally when I ask this question, people will say, well, of course it's to make money or it's to make a profit. Peter Drucker, who's a famous management guru, passed away, I think, in 2006, but a lot of his career was started when he moved over from Austria sometime previous, I think, or during World War II, so 1930s, 1940s. Spent a lot of time studying and consulting and working with General Motors when General Motors had as much as 65% market share in the United States for their vehicles. They were wildly successful and recognized globally for their success, and this carried on into the 1950s and I think into the 60s before they started to run into some serious competition. So Drucker said, no, the purpose of business is really to create customers. Without customers, you can't generate a profit. So I like to throw that out there right up front. Get us really thinking about this because the center of everything, it really is the customer. And if we don't find a good way to fulfill the customer's expectations, whether it's quality, whether it's delivery, price, you name it, value, then we're leaving the customer less than satisfied. Drucker also goes on to say that there's really two functions of business, marketing and innovation. Everything else supports this. And if you think about it, and you're trying to create customers as the primary driver of your business and the driver of your profitability, the ways in which you do that are by making yourself stand out and letting the customer know that you exist. And that's where marketing comes into play. Innovation is really a part of that stand out function where it's differentiating yourself or it's constantly seeking a better way, not just a new way, but a better way to serve the customer or to deliver to the customer what they're looking for. And there's plenty of examples of innovation, and we'll delve into some of those as we go throughout this course. So operations' role is to continuously create value based on customer demand and using raw materials and inputs. Now, I like to also look at things from a systems perspective. So you've got you've got the market, as we've touched on, you've got the business, and then you've got suppliers to the business, which is where our supply chain management piece comes into play. In terms of the market, we have our customers, industrial customers, commercial customers, retail customers, but we often have a lot of different questions that we may ask the customers. I'm also going to make these PowerPoint slides available in the static version so that you can download them and look at them yourself. But there's a lot of different things that we want to know about any particular group of customers. On the other hand, you have your suppliers. And like our customers, they can be pretty complicated. And they have different needs. Even though we consider them suppliers to us and we're their customer, there's still things that in order for the transaction to be successful over a long period of time must take place or must happen. And so we've got a lot of questions about the sources of the supplies, if you will, our supply chain partners. When we get into the supply chain itself, we start to look at all the different flows. So the flows of materials, the flows of information, the flows, financial flows of capital and cash, and how they impact or are impacted by the various nuances of running what can be a very sophisticated and increasingly global supply chain. So when you put it all together and you look at a business's operations, it's comprised of the inputs from your suppliers or your supply chain. It satisfies the market through the outputs, the products and services that you deliver to the customer. And in between are all the functions of management, the planning, coordinating, organizing, etc. The operations itself, which effectively is the conversion of the inputs, the conversion of those items that you're sourcing from suppliers into something of more value that the customer will want. And then, of course, there's the stored information, which is where your databases of a variety of types and and modalities, electronic and otherwise, exist. So operations are all the things that happen that lead to a sellable product or service. So, for example, completing tax returns, building a car, cooking a hamburger, making a dress. And in order to sell this, you have to be able to do this. And there's a YouTube link that you can follow. Again, you'll want to do that in the static version of this presentation. In order to sell this, a car, you have to be able to do this. And again, another link that you can take a look at. Check the links out. If they don't work, let me know. They seem to when I tried them the other day, but to sell this, you have to do this. So again, there's just a variety of different approaches and ways to make things work. So business operations, reoccurring activities involved in the running of a business for the purpose of producing value for stakeholders. So value. So this leads to 3 critical points about the purpose. First, the purpose of operations is to generate a reoccurring income. Secondly, it's to increase the value of the business assets. So the machinery, the facilities, the people, you could even argue, that make up the whole. And third, it's securing the income and the value of the business. So sustainability, building in sustainability. So without operations, you have nothing to sell, you have no business. In other words, you need people and machinery and processes, etc., to be able to convert whatever it is that you are producing or whatever it is that you are sourcing into something of greater value in the eyes of the customer. Remember, it's not you that establishes the value, really, it's the customer at the end of the day. And again, without customers, you have no need for operations, you have no business. So you can see the synergy between customers and operations. Customers are sources of revenue and profit. Operations are where you incur your costs, but also generate your value. So at the end of the day, this course is really about processes, including the analysis of processes, value chains, the market, in terms of forecasting and demand, inventory, meeting customer needs, understanding what their expectations are, etc. And then also ultimately continuous improvement. So any quality kind of initiatives related to value add, total quality management, Lean Six Sigma, these are some of the other concepts we'll explore. Now management comes into play because management is responsible for all those functions of planning, coordinating, measuring, hiring, etc. that take place to ensure that the value is being added in such a way that it satisfies the customers and the customers keep coming back to you. If we look at generating a recurring income, for example, we need to understand the market, what they need, what they want, the quality, the value, price ultimately. We need to predict future revenues and profits in order to convince people to invest the capital and the funding that's required for people, machinery, etc. And ultimately, we need to constantly be scanning to make sure that the value that we're adding truly is what the customer is looking for, and that we're also seeking to innovate in a variety of different ways to improve our processes and ultimately improve the value proposition to the customers. So increasing the value of business assets, the second item that we talked about, is about property, people, resources, plant and equipment, and financial. So it's making those kind of decisions that ensure that the value is constantly going in the right direction. So let me highlight 3 key concepts to end this particular presentation. First, key concept is value. These are concepts that I'm going to keep coming back to. Value-added activities are activities that transform or shape material or information to meet customer value requirements. Non-value-add activity is considered waste. These are activities that take time or resources but don't add to customer value. And there are 7 types of wastes we'll explore. In fact, there may actually be an 8th waste as well, but we'll update that as we go through this. From overproduction to waiting, transport, inventory, overprocessing, motion, defects, etc. Second key concept that we're going to emphasize in this course is continuous improvement. It's the ongoing effort to improve products, services, and processes. It's my dog, sorry about that. We'll discuss the concept of Kaizen as established by Edward Deming, and we'll also explore Toyota as essentially the company that got it first and has really defined the last 100 years of quality management. Kaizen ultimately means improvement. It's So we'll look at the cycle of Kaizen activity, and this fits in extremely well with lean management techniques, which we're going to learn more about, and also dovetails and complements a lot of what goes on with Six Sigma in terms of measurement activities, etc. The third item I mentioned is about sustainability and securing the income and value of the company, and this leads to our third key concept: don't forget the customer. And this is where marketing and innovation come into play. If you do not stay up, if you do not constantly seek new customers and or seek ways to add more value and maintain a competitive edge, then you will lose customers. And that does not lead to a sustainable business model. A sustainable business model is one that generates sufficient income so that you can reward your stakeholders and continuously improve what you're doing. Stay up with the changes in the market. It doesn't take much to find companies that have not been able to do this successfully over the last 20, 30 years. Companies that have not been able to transform themselves in their core business model as a result of the impact of technology. So think Toys R Us or Xerox might be another example one. Actually, Xerox has done okay. Kodak, the film company, would be another one that was a massive company at one point and was not able to transform itself successfully. And there's a whole host of others, but again, we'll touch on some of those as we move forward. So keep these three concepts in mind: value, continuous improvement, and customers as we go through this course. Thank you.